Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jennifer Reid. I'm the director of Bridgewater State University Senior College. Welcome to our first info session for our winter-spring semester. I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces, and I see some new folks as well. So one thing I'd like to start us off doing right away is if you can find the chat. Let me make sure I have it set so everyone can chat, because sometimes I have it set in the wrong. Oh yeah, everyone can chat. So if you can find the chat, I'd like you to write your name, where you're zooming in from tonight, and also write the one thing you like to do during a blizzard or a big storm. So a favorite activity during the storm. We'll try to keep it positive, and not think of all the snow that we'll have to shovel this weekend. So let's know what's your favorite thing to do. Wow, Laura likes to shovel snow. Well, Laura, you can come over and stay at my house this weekend. That would be great, because shoveling snow is my least favorite activity. So let us know where you're zooming in from. Also, could I just get a wave of the hand if you are brand new to senior college, never been a member before of senior college? Oh, cool. Well, I see a couple hands up, so that's wonderful. So welcome to senior college. You will have the great privilege of getting to know us as a group. And I think you'll find that we are an engaging, fun, friendly, curious group of people here in senior college. So the plan for tonight will be, I will just tell you a little bit of a background about senior college and why we're here and what we do. And then I will give you just a little bit about, benefits of membership, that kind of thing, tell you a little bit about how the program works in general logistically. And so that will just take up a few minutes, and then we'll get right to the instructors. And so the point of tonight is for you to meet the instructors we have in our program, learn a little bit about them, and then you will have an opportunity to learn from them what you will learn in their class. So it's good to see all the great folks coming in the chat. So you're writing in the chat your name, where you're from, and your favorite activity that you like to do during a big storm. So first up, I put our website there in the chat. So most of you probably have that, but if you haven't checked out our website, that's always a great place to start. Senior college is a place for learning for fun, learning for the sake of enrichment, and learning without tests or papers, and just having an opportunity to exercise our minds and socialize and meet people, new people that you haven't met before. So the whole point of the program is really for us to be engaged with you. Bridgewater State University for a number of years has worked to determine ways that we can be more engaged with the senior population in our area, and specific members in our that are here and part of our team, like Evelyn DeLutis, has a really great close relationship with our president, President Clark, and Francis I'm looking at as well. So people had been asking him for additional ways for us as a university to partner with you as a community. And then in the, let's see, probably sometime in 2018, it sort of landed on my desk where I was charged with just let's create this program. And it's been an incredible privilege. I've said this before, but it really is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my 20 years of higher education. Working with seniors is incredibly rewarding, and I'm grateful that I was given this opportunity and that I have the chance to work with all of you. So along with the team at the college, and specifically I want to introduce my colleague Cathleen DeSimone. Kathleen, do you want to introduce yourself and just give a little plug about what you do as it relates to senior college?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Cathleen DeSimone. I am a colleague of Jen's. I'm the director of BSU Attleboro, where in ordinary circumstances, we would have some of the senior college classes in person. But I am here to serve and support Jen in the work that she does with the program, and any students or instructors who may need assistance along the way. You'll be seeing me in and out of your various classes. So welcome, good luck, and have fun. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Kathleen. So we created the program in the fall of 2019. It started off as a in-person only program with in-person classes being offered at the Bridgewater Public Library. I think we had 44 members that first semester. I think, 80% of them were residents of Bridgewater. And then, of course, we were due to start our March semester in March 2020 when, obviously things changed quite a bit due to the pandemic, and we have shifted to a completely virtual model. And with that, we've had wild success, which we never anticipated. I sold all of us short, and I thought seniors aren't going to want to learn on Zoom. And boy, did everyone prove me wrong. We have had robust, awesome, involved, engaged discussions right here on this screen. So go us. We've had as many as 230 members. Last semester we had 200. This semester I know we're going to get back to 230. So we've done really great. We've offered as much as 40 classes per semester. So we are well on our way to becoming a really strong and robust lifelong learning program. Our classes are short term. Most of them are 6 weeks in duration. This semester, they're changing from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. They're about an hour and 20 minutes long. Again, you can take as many classes as you like for our single membership fee, which is $85 per semester. And that makes us the most affordable lifelong learning program in Massachusetts and probably, beyond, maybe even all of New England. So that's really a complete commitment. I give that to the higher ups. We're not getting pressure to, have this be a revenue generating entity. We just try to cover our modest costs. And it's been incredibly wonderful to work under that model. We also have a very strong scholarship program. So if financially the fee is problematic for you in any way or prohibitive, just send me an email and you can receive a scholarship. So that's, again, thanks to the university, they allow us to do that. And then we also have a new program this semester. If you're over age 90, you have a lifetime free membership to senior college. So if you know anyone, maybe your parents are over 90, or you have a friend or a neighbor in that age bracket, or you yourself perhaps. I don't think we've ever actually had a member over age 90. We had someone that was 89 last semester. So, but spread the word on that. So completely free for folks that are over age 90. Just looking at my notes over here. So how do you register? So we do have a typically bureaucratic 3-step registration process, which is, we apologize in advance. But the reason why we have this 3-step process is we are trying to get each of you to be enrolled officially at the university. So step 1 is filling out the official university paperwork. It's called the non-credit application. And that way you get, if you complete that first step, you get a banner ID number, or I think it's called a bear ID number now. And that number gets you all the amenities on our campus. So if you're local and you plan on visiting Bridgewater's campus, you can get a free parking pass, which that in of itself is worth $200. You can get access to the gym, again, hundreds of dollars worth of value. You can get, work in our library, get access to technical services. So it really is quite an amazing benefit to your membership to be able to get a, I think it's now called a Bear ID. It used to be called a Banner ID, and or a Connect card. So we've changed the language on that a bit, but I'll be sending more information to our members shortly about that. And so you'll get, if you're local, you can get all the, the information that you need to know about that, but something to look into if you live in the area. And then step 2 is payment. That's a pretty straightforward form. And then step 3 is selecting your classes. And again, you can take as many classes as you like for that single fee. So you can pick your classes. If you go to a class and you perhaps maybe just aren't vibing with it, or it's not, to your taste, you can just stop going to the class. You can add more classes as you go along. And then we also have another amazing member benefit which is we record a lot of our classes. And so as a member of senior college, you get access to those recordings in a member only viewing, like video on demand database. And so that's really helpful if you have a meeting, doctor's appointment or you're babysitting grandchildren and you have to miss a class, you can go back at any time and watch those recordings for certain classes. Not every class is recorded. It's up to the instructor's discretion, and we don't record, courses that have to do maybe with more personal things or controversial things, because we want to help people, feel free to talk freely. So you can check our course catalog. We have a newly redesigned course catalog. Of course, you can't see it, but it's 22 pages long, I think. It includes all sorts of information, so you can look for that on our website. We also have something called an quick glance schedule, and I encourage you, if you can, to print that out, because that just gives like what you need to know: the name of the course, the dates, whether it's on Zoom or in person, and the instructor name. And then finally, I wanted to just tell you about a couple upcoming events we have. We have 2 more information sessions. They're all listed on our website, so I'm not going to go over the dates and times for all these sessions, because it's just a lot of stuff to say on the airwaves. So I'll let you see that, but we have 2 more information sessions. We have a Zoom Q&A. So it's just an open session where you can come and I can help you with like changing the background in your Zoom space, or learning how to mute and unmute or that kind of thing. So feel free to come to that. That's coming up. And again, all the dates are on the website. Then we have a couple of events coming up with one of our partners, which is the Alzheimer's Association of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So we have an event on the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's and new advances in Alzheimer's treatment. We also had a great event on Monday. Can I get a wave if you were at the event on Monday? Yeah, it was like, when I run an event, I very rarely take notes, and I took copious notes. Like, he was so good. His name was Dr. Roger Landry. He's a healthy aging expert, which makes it sound like he's going to tell you to eat like, healthy foods. And it really wasn't that. It was so uplifting and down to earth, his approach. And so I'm copying the YouTube video for that, because so if you missed it, you can watch the YouTube video. He was really something else. I really enjoyed him, and I think we could get him to be a speaker in person in the future, because he lives here in Massachusetts. So check that out if you have a moment. Okay, that was a lot of me talking. Kathleen, is there anything you think I might have missed before we get into transitioning to our instructors?
Not that I think of, Jen. You have got this down, girl. I think you got it all.
All right, so put your questions in the chat though. If you don't private chat me though, because a lot of times your question is things that other people want to know. So just throw it in the chat if you have a question. So now we will transition to the period where we'll hear from our great instructors. And again, if any instructors came in late, I'd love you to just give the 1 minute, who are you? Like, what do you do? What's your background? And then a 2 to 3 minute just plug for your class. What can they hope to learn by coming to your class? And also, like, maybe what's your style? Are you planning on a formal lecture and then Q&A at the end? Or are you more, open discussion group? Like, tell us a bit about what they can expect, what kind of class they can expect. Are you a PowerPoint and 10-minute structure at the end for questions, or what's your format? All right. So I'll tell the instructor who's actually, I'm going to have Michael Kocet go first. And then I'll also tell the person who's up after that person, so you have a few minutes to prepare. So we'll start with Dr. Michael Kocet, and then we'll have Amy McManus go after him.
Everyone, thanks, Jen. My name is Michael Kocet. I am a professor and department chair at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in Chicago, Illinois. I teach graduate students who are getting their master's degrees in clinical mental health counseling. I am a former proud professor of Bridgewater State University. I was there from 2002 to 2015 and came to Chicago in 2015. So I love Bridgewater. I miss Bridgewater, and it's great to see familiar faces and even former students, now instructors here at part of the senior college. So I'm teaching a course, Grief and Loss in Global Society, Complexities and Challenges. And actually at Bridgewater, when I was a professor there, I taught a grief counseling course for 13 years there. And so I'm going to be tackling how grief and loss permeates our lives, and not just losses around death, but non-death losses as well. And certainly we'll talk about things like the pandemic and how we've all been grieving during this period. And so it'll be a little bit of PowerPoint, some information, but a lot of discussion and interaction. And I really want students to really reflect on how grief and loss impacts their life, maybe their neighbors. What do we need to talk about as far as how grief affects us? Because our society is not very grief friendly. We don't like to talk about grief. And so kind of break down some of the myths that maybe we were raised in our families around grief and loss. So that's kind of grief in a nutshell. So excited to be back and glad for that Jen invited me to be back at Bridgewater.
Oh, Mike, I'm so honored that you would consider and come back in this capacity. When Michael and I first met, it was in 2015, and I was the director of our BSU Cape Cod campus, and he taught a week-long class on grief at that campus. It was like a summer intensive class, and the students would come out of class and they'd all be like, and like my empath was like, I can't handle it. They seem down. And I remember you saying that group was like, it was sort of like pulling teeth, like every once in a while, it was just like not the greatest, opening up kind of situation. And I just give you so much credit for focusing and, offering such important conversation around a topic that is so often taboo. And I'm just really honored to have you back in this space. So I would encourage folks to sign up for your class, even if you're not actively, experiencing grief, from something recent in your life. We all will lose someone at some point in our life. So important to think about that. Dr. Kocet's class takes place Mondays on Zoom, and it starts on February 28th. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mike, and you're welcome to go if you want to. You certainly don't have to stay. I know you're very, very busy. Okay.
Everybody.
Oh, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, up next we'll have Amy, and then we'll do Sandra M.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amy McManus Freeland. I was in Michael Kocet's first cohort of graduate students at Bridgewater State University. He was my higher education. I got a higher education counseling master's, and Michael Kocet taught the majority of the higher education classes for that cohort. So when I saw his name on this list of people, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because I knew that he moved to Chicago and has a whole life out there. So I thought that was really cool. I am an academic advisor at Bridgewater State University. I have been affiliated with BSU since 1980 when I was an undergraduate there, and dropped out, came back. I was an adult student in my 30s and ended up getting 2 master's degrees. And I work at the Academic Achievement Center, which is located in the Maxwell Library. So very familiar with the place and love it there. And I'm really excited that Jennifer accepted my proposal to teach the Dingle Way. So the Dingle Way is going to be a journey my students in the Dingle Way will experience with me. First, via my experiences, my stories about the Dingle Peninsula in Dingle, Ireland. My husband and I have been, this will be our 7th trip coming up in May. Jen's been there, I hear. And it's just a spectacular, special, beautiful place. So I am going to touch upon, it's going to be discussion based, but of course I have video, music, kind of like an itinerary from start to finish, from soup to nuts, how to go about traveling to and around the Dingle Peninsula. There'll be a little bit about the geography, a little bit about the history, the culture, a lot about music, a lot about food, places to stay, places to visit. I'm really looking forward to it. Some of the unknown spots on the Dingle Peninsula that people don't typically go are the Glantinnig Forest, the Maharees, Mount Brandon, Menard Castle, Kinnaird Beach, Bin Ban, Inch Beach. There's so many places on that one peninsula, and I can't wait to share it.
Oh, Amy, I'm so excited. I mean, I think I'm biased because I am, I'm of 100% Irish descent myself. And, especially since my mom passed away, I've become more and more a fan of my Irish culture because she was like a super fan of everything, related to Ireland. So I'm excited. I know a lot of people in the region of Southeastern Mass are also of Irish descent, or, maybe is married to someone of Irish descent. And I think whether you are of Irish descent or just interested in travel and, absolute spectacularly beautiful country, I think people will really enjoy this class quite a bit. I was going to plug your date and time. Oh, okay, I have it right here. So Amy's class, The Dingle Way, is fully on Zoom. It's Wednesdays, starting on March 16th at 4:30 p.m. So thank you so much, Amy. We're really excited.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and you mentioned food, Ireland. I have to say that Ireland does not have much of a culinary scene. It's getting better, but
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. I will prove you wrong.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to come to your session when you talk about food in Ireland. That's funny. All right, thank you, Amy. Okay, up next we have Sandra M, and then we'll do Sam B.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sandra Mondykowski. I am an instructor at Boston University, the Prison Education Program. I have taught selected topics in American history for years in the prison, in Massachusetts prisons, and I have taught several of those selected courses here for Bridgewater Senior College, and it's a lot of fun. This spring I'll be teaching Law and Order, the North American West. Of course, it's going to be Law and Order. And we'll be looking at what do we mean by frontier justice, the Code of the West. We'll be looking at the Buccaneers of the Territories, the James Gang, versus the Pinkerton Detectives, Bellstar and the Dalton Brothers. Of course, the Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. We will also be looking at the ones who wore the badge, the Masterson brothers, and the Earp brothers and Pat Garrett. We'll take a dive into the Texas Ranger. To be a Texas Ranger, a man had to, quote, ride like a Mexican, shoot like a Kentuckian, and fight like the devil. Week 5, we'll be looking at the Canadian Mounties. In 1873, the Canadian government established the first 300 troops of mounted police to deal with, quote, American rogues, rest of Indians, and struggling settlers in the Canadian Central Plains. The mounted police don't scare worth a cent. And then week 6, finally, we will look at the lawyers and the judges. I'll be looking at 2 particular lawyers, Temple Houston and J. Warren Reid. And as far as the judges, Isaac Charles Parker, the hanging judge, and Roy Bean, the Solomon of the Southwest. So it should be a pretty lively 6 weeks. It'll start in April. I have lots of fun with PowerPoint slides, and because it's an hour and 20 minutes, we'll have the slides and the presentation for the first part of the class, and then we'll be able to have time for questions and comments. I also send out the slides when the class is done, and I'm always happy to answer questions. I've had the most fun and learned the most myself from the questions that students then have asked me and that I've followed up on. So I look forward to seeing some of you come April in Law and Order, the American West.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Sandra, we have been really, it's been an honor to have you as an instructor now. I think this might be your 3rd or 4th semester in a row. The feedback that we get about you is how incredibly prepared you are and how knowledgeable you are about the content of your course. And I love when we get this comment about you. It's that they would sign up to take any course that you offer, no matter what the topic. So I'm so thrilled to have you back. And I know how much time and effort you put into preparing for this course, all the courses that you teach, and just we're so thrilled to have you. And I would strongly encourage folks to consider taking your course, even if maybe the topic's not something you were normally curious about. I would encourage you, because I think you'll just enjoy what seen how Sandra is right now. Just she has this incredibly calming, confident delivery, and we are so thrilled to have you back. And I'm looking now. Of course, I always think I need to prepare where your class is, and then I totally lose it. Sandra, do you know offhand when your class starts?
Yeah. It's on Zoom, and it starts in April, and it's on Mondays at noon, starting April 4th.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sandra. Okay, next up, Sam.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sam Baumgarten. I've been affiliated with Bridgewater State University and the town of Bridgewater for close to 43 years now. I started my career as an elementary physical education teacher on Long Island in New York. And I came here in 1979 to be the physical education teacher at what was then the Burnell Campus School. If you've been around a while, you probably remember that. And I stayed at Burnell School teaching the children there until 1999, when the university began to phase out the campus school, and I joined what was then the Movement Arts Department at the university. It's now called the Department of Health and Kinesiology. And among my class assignments there was teaching folk dance, square dance, rhythmic activities. So I continued to teach dance at the university, following up what started way back in the elementary school. I officially retired in 2011, but when I retired, I stayed on as an adjunct faculty and continued to teach folk dance and square dance and rhythmic activities. I finally stopped that when the COVID pandemic hit. I did not like teaching square dance online. So that was it for me. And I started a community dance program as well when I retired 10 years ago, and that is still thriving, I'm happy to say. We've managed to keep dancing somewhat through COVID. We use the Bridgewater Senior Center as our location. So pretty much dance has been a part of my adult life for quite a long time. My class here at the Senior College will be one of the few in-person classes. So I will be offering a class in international folk dance and possibly some square dance at the Bridgewater Senior Center, starting on March 25th. It will be 6 Friday afternoons from 1 o'clock until 2:20. The repertoire would include dances that represent different countries around the world. And they're mostly circle dances, some line dances, some trios. We will probably, depending on COVID, we will remain somewhat distant, but we can still dance, I think, safely. And if COVID has dropped off some by the end of March, we may be able to take hands or swing or turn a partner. We'll see how that goes, but at least for now, we'll plan on being masked and indoors at the Senior Center. I'm also hoping that if enough people sign up, that we could maybe form a square or two and maybe learn a little bit about square dance to go along with the dances from around the world. Because the dancing requires people, it would be good that if you do take that class, that you commit to attending regularly. It's a little different than being on Zoom, where you can just not attend and most people won't know. It won't affect the class. But if you don't attend the dance classes, it can affect what we can do. I try to teach in a way that's welcoming to everyone, that accepts all of your idiosyncrasies, whatever skills you have. We find a way to make it work for everybody. So I hope that some of you who've not experienced that before will be interested in trying it out. So again, it starts March 25th, Friday afternoons, 1 o'clock at the Senior Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you coming in tonight to tell us all about your class. I know that the participants who took your class last semester had a lot of fun. And I heard only positive things about your class. I think if you're local too, like it's just a great way to connect with other people and get out of the house. And if you haven't been to the Bridgewater Senior Center before, it's just, it's a wonderful spot. The staff there are amazing. We'll make everything as safe as humanly possible. You do need to be vaccinated to attend in person, and we'll talk more about that later. But I hope we can make that happen, and appreciate your willingness to be engaged with us, Sam. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see who I have next. Next up is Laura DeSimone. Welcome back, Laura.
Hey, thanks, Jen. So nice to be here. Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura DeSimone. By day, I am an Attleboro public school teacher. I teach math and science here at a local middle school. And, the rest of my life, I have a pretty rich spiritual life. I'm a Usui Reiki master. I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. This past November, I just earned a 200-hour yoga certification, social emotional learning facilitator, and wellness champion. So it's quite a mouthful, but I love to learn. So I really commend everybody being here, continuing on in your educational journey. I know one day when I'm old enough to be in the senior college, that I am already, that I will happily take classes as well. So the class that I'm teaching is called Mindful Meditation: Essential Practices for Healthy Aging. And I will tell you that I have been meditating for decades. It has really changed my life. It helps me keep my proverbial boat at an even keel during life storms. Specifically, this class is geared towards seniors. And we know through scientific research that mindful meditation can help improve focus, reduce stress, improve sleep. I mean, really all great things. And so if you are interested in possibly reducing depression and pain and boost emotional well-being, this may be the class for you. As far as format, there is a didactic teaching that occurs. We do a meditation. Sometimes those meditations are at different points during each class. And then we spend a lot of time in a question and answer session because most people who join this class are new to meditation. There were a few seasoned meditators like myself. But wherever you are in your meditative journey, if you just like to learn how to begin, you'd like to learn a little bit more about mindfulness, please sign up. I would love to share my excitement for this subject with you. And it begins on April 4th and runs on Monday nights, 6:45 p.m. to 8:05 p.m. So I wish you well and have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Laura. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here. I know as a teacher, I'm sure this is probably like bedtime for you, maybe. I'm sure you're up quite
Yes,
early.
it is.
I just wanted to say, I didn't expect, I'll be totally honest, there to be such an incredible interest in mindfulness, and your class blew me out of the water last semester. When I pulled the class list and there was like 50-ish people on it, I was like, what? And then, boy, I mean, for someone to get, I think, our largest class last semester, we couldn't have had a better instructor. I received weekly emails from people in your class telling me how much they appreciated you, how much they love the class, and glowing reviews about you and, just who you are as an educator. And of course, just the special tone that you bring to this important topic. And, on our conversation that we had with Dr. Landry on Monday, he talked specifically about mindfulness. And so it was such a a softball way for me to, give a plug to your class, which I did. So thank you for being here, and appreciate all that you do for senior college and all the effort you put into delivering such an important, great class. Thank you. Okay. All right. So up next, who do I have? I've lost track. Okay, Nan, welcome.
Hi,
Nan.
everyone. I'm Nan Loggans, and this will be my 4th semester. I was surprised, but I looked back, it'll be my 4th time in the teaching courses in senior college. My daytime job, I don't teach at BSU, I teach at BCC, or Bristol Community College, history and political science or government classes. And I've taught just about every history class there is to teach at Bristol. And I've even developed a number of them and created them and taught them, new things like Vietnam War. This semester, I'll be teaching a class on the Cold War. But as far as the senior college goes, I'll be teaching 3 different classes. One isn't really a class, it's a political discussion group. And I have led discussion groups for years. And invariably, people will say, oh, do you really want to do that? Especially talk about politics, especially now. But it's worked out really well, and all voices are welcome. Sometimes I'll say the week prior, I think we'll be discussing such and such next week. But like if we were to do it this week, we just found out earlier today that Supreme Court Justice Breyer is retiring. So we would have missed that if we met today. And of course, there are things going on in the Ukraine and just the midterm elections. There's always something. So think of it almost as political current events, and there's something for everyone, and all voices are welcome, all political persuasions. We break into small groups of 4 to 5 people usually, and everybody talks about a particular topic and for about 15 minutes, and then we come back into the big group and share. Usually before we discuss a particular topic, I'll show a short video because I think that works better for this format than assigning everybody a 5-minute article to read. And I think it's worked pretty well. So that starts next week, I believe on Wednesday at, and I wrote it down somewhere,
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Thank you. Wednesdays at 10, and it will run for 6 consecutive weeks. The following week, I will start a class called 1970s, A Pivotal Decade. And most people, we all lived through the 70s. Depending on your age, you might have been coming of age or in college, or you might have already started a family or been working or any number of things. But we all have memories of the 1970s. So we'll be touching on things like Watergate. Of course, a lot of us were 50 years younger back then, or all of us were. So you might not have been paying as much attention about different topics at the time. We'll also talk about a bit of the popular culture of the period, everything from, remember how we dressed? But it will mostly be things like Watergate and the Iran-Contra, and I'm sorry, I meant to say the Iran hostages. So it'll be a different topic each week for 6 weeks. And again, that starts next week, I think on Tuesdays at 11. Okay, and that will run for 6 weeks. Then later in the semester, I'll be doing a class, and it's a topic I'm very interested in, American extremism. This past semester, I did the rise of white supremacy, and some of the topics are pretty difficult, but I think people enjoyed learning about them. This will not be a repeat of that. Might have a little bit with things like QAnon, but we'll also go back into recent history and talk about Waco and Ruby Ridge and the Murrah Federal Building bombing, a different topic each week. And my style, well, with the discussion group, obviously I'm not lecturing. I'll be discussing, but I also try to stay out of it. I'll participate a little bit, but it's really more about you. I'll get everybody started. And then my other 2 will be a little more traditional with PowerPoints, but plenty of time for discussion. I'll stop periodically and we'll all, have an opportunity to talk or ask questions. And so I hope to see some or all of you in one or more of my classes.
Man, thank you so much. We're thrilled to have you back teaching these
Thank
three courses. You have been a pillar of, instructor leadership for us, and we're just really happy to have you. I know that, like so many of our members just take everything that you offer and they appreciate you so much. And there's so much sort of respect for your knowledge. And one thing that I think is really important. One semester we did a class on the 1960s. I think it was Evelyn that actually said, in the 60s, Evelyn, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you were busy raising your kids and you weren't paying maybe as much attention to current events. So going back to revisit these decades of our youth, even if we were adults, it can be really useful. Was that you, Evelyn, that said that?
Yes, it was, because I was married. I had 3 babies. That's all I could do.
Yeah. Yeah. In the 70s, I love that. I was born in the 70s. My first memory of a current event was the hostages, the Iranian hostages coming home. And I remember my mother sobbing and telling us kids to like, come downstairs. This is so important. It was like, it's really a really vivid memory for me. So I think that class is going to be really interesting for our members for sure. Thanks, Nan.
Thank you.
Okay, now Sheila, we have yet to meet in person or see each other. So welcome, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. You have the
Thanks,
floor.
Jen. Hi, I'm Sheila Kelleher. I have been performing in community theater for over 20 years, directing for 8. I have a master's in theater education from Emerson, and I developed a beginners acting workshop for seniors. This is to give adults the skills to learn from the bottom up how to act on stage. And we break it down by starting with breath. If you don't have good breath support, you won't be heard. Doesn't matter how good you are. And then we work into your voice as an instrument and all the things that you can do with your voice. And then we move into physicality, how you move versus how someone else moves, taking on a different character, how physicality changes how you talk and how you deliver your lines. Then we talk about motivation and internal dialogue. And then we learn how to read a script and look for character clues. And we try out some scenes together. And then we work into scenes that I assign to the participants. And then I direct you as I would if you were on my stage. So it's very hands-on, very on your feet, physically active, very engaging with each other. You have to have a sense of play so you can try these things on. And it takes a little bit of courage because you don't normally act like this, but you're all in it together. It's very much a community. And I purposely target it to seniors so there would be a comfort level that everyone's on the same playing field. We don't have any equity actors walking in to steal the show. So it's lots of fun. I ran it at the Center for Active Living in Plymouth, which is where it's going to be taught the very first time. And I'm teaching it right now through the Duxbury Senior Center. And it gets great response, and it's lots and lots of fun. And by the end, you're actually doing a scene with a scene partner. And I've had a few people go on to do community theater, so you never know. So I hope you'll join me. So that's beginning the end of April, I think the 28th.
Yep.
At the Plymouth Center for Active Living. So come play.
Yes, that sounds so exciting. We're really, we have built the schedule to have several in-person classes. So make sure you review the schedule. The Center for Active Living has been a great partner with us. We have many great courses planned there. So if you're, within driving distance to Plymouth, I would encourage you. It's a phenomenal center. I mean, it's new, modern, state-of-the-art. It's beautiful. Sheila, when we had that aging expert on Monday speak, he talked about that by taking small risks, it helps develop and maintain the neuroplasticity in your brain. So like trying something new like this, like it might not be in your comfort zone, it actually really can improve your health and wellness to just do something totally out of your comfort zone like this, you know. So I would encourage folks, if you're able to, you know, consider signing up for Sheila's class. I can guarantee it'll be fun, and we're really excited to have you on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, up last, but certainly not least, is Ron Reynolds. Ron, welcome to the info session. Thanks for being here. Good to see you.
You're on mute. Hello, everybody. I matriculated at Bridgewater State Teachers College in 1957. And in one way or another, I've been involved with the institution ever since. I taught high school in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island for 42 years. And after having had a stroke, I had to retire. And I had an opportunity to go to work at what had become Bridgewater State College at that time. And I taught there for 17 years. And I was laid off 2 years ago in the pandemic. And all of my career, I've been teaching science. In high school, I taught earth science, chemistry, and physics. I hold degrees in both earth science and chemistry. And then while I've been at Bridgewater State, I've been teaching geosciences and physics. And I have loved it. And I stumbled onto the senior college a couple of years back and started taking courses with Sandra Temple. And she's the one that got me hooked on the program. And I noticed there were no science offerings. And I proposed to Jen the idea that maybe this is something you might want to pursue. And she said, make a proposal. And I did. And I taught a course last semester that went well. Enrollments were low. I think people are scared of physics. There's nothing to be afraid of. There are no grades, no exams. It's wonderful. I love teaching that way. I don't have to correct papers. I'm going to be teaching 2 courses this semester. The second course later on will be on the national parks, and I'll talk about that in another one of these presentations. Tonight, I want to talk about the first course, which the title is essentially Forces in Nature, Earthquakes and Volcanoes. And what I want to do is to start out teaching about how forces interact with matter, which is kind of a follow-up to last semester's course on essentially beginning physics. And I hope you'll find some interesting things about the way matter and forces interact. One of the things that's funny is how our mind fools us, and we have these imaginary, or some physicists call them fictitious forces, like centrifugal force. There is no such thing, but everybody thinks it exists. They feel it, and it doesn't happen. So after getting some understanding of forces the first couple of weeks, then I want to look at an introduction to what's known as plate tectonics. In the geological field, it's something relatively new. The field of plate tectonics evolved after I graduated from Bridgewater in 1961. And I want to use that as a background to understanding what causes earthquakes and volcanoes. And so after we spend some time on the beginnings of plate tectonics, I want to spend perhaps a couple of weeks on earthquakes and seismology, how we can tell where earthquakes are from far away. And then I want to go from that into volcanoes and talk about the volcanic belt in the Western United States. A lot of people don't realize how many volcanoes we have in this country. Most of them have been dormant, but of course, some years back when Mount St. Helens erupted, we realized they're not extinct. And I hope you'll find that kind of interesting. And also to note, there are 2 different kinds of volcanoes. Some, when they erupt, effuse magma or lava when it gets to the surface, such as Mount Kilauea in Hawaii. And then other volcanoes like Mount St. Helens literally explode. And I like to use PowerPoint to use as a way of focusing my ideas and putting some of the terminology up so people can see it in print. A lot of the words, if I just say them, they'll go right by. But if you see it in print, of course, it has more impact. And then as part of those PowerPoint presentations too, I use numerous diagrams and photographs to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And I'm going to have a lot of video clips that I've interspersed in the PowerPoint presentations. And I'm trying not to make it too formal, but even though it's going to be a lecture approach, I'll welcome interruptions for questions. And I'm going to ask people in my classes to mute themselves, but anytime you have a question, just unmute and ask your idea. And I know as adults, people have discretion and they know when it's a good moment to break in and when it isn't. It's quite different from dealing with youngsters. And I had a ball last semester teaching that class, and I'm hoping to have an encore performance.
I have no doubt that you will have an encore performance, Ron. People spoke so highly about their experience in your class, and the way that you are incredibly prepared and how you deliver complicated scientific information in a way that allows people to learn and be engaged. So I'm thrilled to have you back, and you'll be at another info session talking about your class on the national parks, which I think is really exciting. I actually have this little book right here, which you can't see, on the national parks. It's like, it has a postcard in it from every national park. That's a goal of mine, to be able to travel to all the national parks. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Both courses will be on Fridays. This first one is Friday mornings from 10 to 11:20. And I believe the first session starts February 4.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Ron.
Oh, thank you. And you're making my ego swell. Thanks a lot. My wife will say I don't deserve it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, we have 8 minutes left. How about we start with, if anyone has a question for an instructor, let's go ahead and ask those, and then we can take more general questions. If there's any burning specific questions, go ahead, Jan.
I'm just going to say that, Ron, you're going to have to prove to me that there's no such thing as centrifugal force. I mean, seriously, why do they train astronauts then to be able to handle centrifugal force up to like, and they measure
That's an interesting thing.
It's
I've heard the astronauts use that term, centrifugal force, but you have to remember they aren't scientists.
All right. Okay. Maybe I'll wind up siding with you and not the astronauts then. We'll have
I'll try to explain
I'll
it
take your
and convince
course.
you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other instructor specific
Ron.
questions? Evelyn?
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
I think I remember that you were in the astronaut program
That's
many
right.
years ago. When I had your boys in kindergarten.
Right. Right. And that was back when I had hair. And it was an interesting thing how I got involved in that. I'd been down in Florida for a lunch, and President Reagan came in and talked to us about the Teacher in Space program. And when I got back to school, the kids, of course, typical kids trying to kill time, what happened? And I mentioned the president spoke to us, and they said, "You're going to apply, aren't you?" I said, "No, look, I'm overweight, I'm balding." And one of the girls in the back of the room piped up and made me eat my own words. She said, "Well, you always tell us if you don't try, you won't know if you can do it." I felt pretty cheap. It was an interesting experience. We talked it over at supper, and my son said, "Yeah, Dad, you ought to do it." And I looked at my wife and said, "What do you think?" She says, "It's all right as long as your life insurance is paid up." And she always felt guilty about that because, of course, there was a tragic accident. But that's the luck of the draw. And I know even now in my 80s, if they called up and said, Ron, we want you in Houston for training, I'm gone.
I love that, Ron. That's so cool. I remember that very vividly, as a seventh grader, when the Challenger accident. So that's super, super cool tidbit of history. Okay, well, I just want to be mindful of the time, folks. We have about 5 minutes left. If there's any general burning questions about senior college, I'm here. If the instructors want to say their fair adieus, they're welcome to do that. I know it's getting late, so you're welcome to log out, and we'll just kind of wrap up from here. Any specific questions about senior college? Any shameless plugs that you'd like to give? I see some of our most favorite members here tonight. I see Ellen smiling, Francis smiling, Jan.
I'm going to see if Amy Schneider knocks off another group of people tonight.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
For the drummer dance kind of thing. How intense is that? Because I'm not disabled, but I do have 2 screws in my knees, so I walk with a cane. So I might give it a go, but I want to know how intense is it? Did she leave? Oh,
he's here. Sam, go ahead.
How intense? Well, I try to keep it not too intense.
Okay.
I try to make it again suitable for everyone, and I guess the best thing to do is to maybe come and try it out and see how it works for you. Can't predict until I guess I see, how comfortable you are with what I'm teaching. And usually there's always modifications that I can make. And many of my dance colleagues and I share ideas just about that very topic so that we can make dances accessible to everyone. And oftentimes we have to just rewrite the dance and change the steps or change the tempo. So we'll do our best to make it work. So if you want to give it a shot, be glad to have you.
Thank you. And it was also
for
for the drummer teacher too, the one for Plymouth, but I don't think
for the acting class. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think she's still.
These are 2 tunes called.
Oops, I don't think she's still here, but I would imagine that it would be a similar perspective, that she would make accommodations based on your, your needs. So I would have no worries that she would be able to make accommodations for you, certainly. Okay, any other questions, folks? Jan, go ahead.
Not really a question. I just wanted to let Francis know that, it was a long time back, I joined in some of the community dances with that Sam teaches. And even if you don't participate in every dance, it's just being there with people is just really fun. And it's just really great to engage with, with other folks in that way. So yeah, you don't have to feel like you have to get up every single dance. And, I didn't, and I really enjoyed myself. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Jan.
you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Before we, end, I'll certainly take 1 or 2 more questions. But the thing I want to remember to say is that, and you've all heard me say this before, those of you that have been members, but the marketing budget that we get from the university, it's very generous. It's about $0.0. So the biggest thing that you can do if you are a member, you've enjoyed your classes in the past, and you're joining up again, is to please just spread the word. Tell a neighbor, family member, a friend, your cousin in North Carolina, your cousin in New York. We are mostly a virtual program. So your $85 still gets you tons of content and courses and learning, whether or not you can go to any in-person classes. So that's the one ask I would just have you all think about. Forward an email that I send to you off to a few friends or family members. Share it on social media, and I know so many of you do that already. But just think about that, because that's really how we will grow and develop this program. I hope that You know, my goal in 3 years is for us to have 500 members. So we will get there. I know that one by one person telling a friend about how great they of an experience they had in senior college. All right, if there's no other questions, we will go ahead and wrap it up. I'll see you at the next session or in a class. And you know, you can email me anytime if you have any questions about how to sign up or in general about senior college, or if you need a scholarship or whatever it might be, just shoot me an email. I'm here all the time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. It was great to see you.